This is Detour, the best stories in Black travel. Strange, they called it. The red contraption tooling along the streets of Springfield, Missouri at 7 miles per hour. Fingers pointed, necks craned, eyes squinted at this odd machine that looked like it was built from bicycle wheels and the brake handle of a freight car. As one historian described the young inventor's unveil, it'd be like a spaceship landing in the middle of the square. It was 1901, and the residents of Springfield, a railroad town, had never laid eyes on an automobile. But Walter "Duck" Majors, a 22-year-old black bicycle mechanic born to former slaves, had created the first gasoline-powered vehicle in this predominantly white town in the state's southwest corner, which would become the birthplace of America's fabled highway, Route 66. Major's Machine, the inventor proudly dubbed his brainchild. The ride wasn't exactly smooth, careening down St. Louis Street, starting and stopping, scaring horses along the way, but Major, always the dreamer, seemed oblivious to the criticism. Yet here's the sad part. If you visit Springfield these days, you won't find much evidence of Major's life there, or for that matter, any other black during that era. The reason is simple. In 1906, a mob of white residents lynched 3 young black men in the town square over an alleged sexual assault of a white woman. The governor ordered troops to occupy the city as white residents mulled a larger attack on the city's black community. The violence was eventually quelled, and a grand jury was convened to investigate the crime. Only 2 men would be indicted for the lynchings. 1 man went to trial, but the jury failed to reach a verdict. Still, Springfield was racially hostile, and by 1909, the year the charges were dismissed, Majors had relocated to St. Louis. That's the buried history. But over the next few months, and with your help, Detour will attempt to explain what happened to Majors and other properties owned by black residents who fled Springfield following the 1906 lynchings. To be sure, in an Associated Press 2001 story, Torn from the Land, investigative reporters discovered in other cities across America, including in Pierce City, Missouri, white residents sometimes forcibly seized land belonging to black residents following acts of violence, such as lynchings. Other times, black residents were forced to sell their land at a loss in order to flee racial violence. A century earlier, in her 1895 investigation, The Red Record, journalist Ida B. Wells noted that lynchings were often used as an extrajudicial tool to eliminate the threat of economic competition from African Americans following the Reconstruction era. Indeed, prior to the lynchings in Springfield, the city's black community was thriving. Majors owned a bicycle shop on Jefferson Avenue across from the historic Colonial Hotel. King Coker, the grandfather of one of the men lynched in 1906, was a successful local farmer. Other black residents worked as blacksmiths, ministers, and even politicians. Black residents created fraternal organizations, founded schools, and formed churches. After all this time, many questions remain. What happened to Walter Major's bicycle shop and home? What about the other black residents of Springfield who fled after the lynchings? Were they able to get fair deals for their properties? Or were the properties outright stolen by white residents? In an occasional series, Detour will tell the remarkable story of inventor Walter "Duck" Majors. Along the way, we're also looking for historians, property records, and other experts to help us build a database of black residents who lived in Springfield prior to 1906. We want to search for those names in the city of Springfield's historic property books to determine what land they owned and whether it was sold after the lynchings. Of course, we don't expect to be able to develop a comprehensive database of every black resident in Springfield, but the goal is to obtain enough data to know and show to what extent black residents were coerced into selling their property below expected value. We invite you to join our investigation.